My husband overheard me bragging about being in control of our marriage. Now he's taking it back. Claire Harper lived in a modest suburban home nestled on the outskirts of Austin, Texas. At 32, she was the picture of modern American womanhood, confident, ambitious, and seemingly in control of every aspect of her life. Her husband, Ethan, worked as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech firm, while Claire managed their household with an iron grip, juggling responsibilities like a seasoned CEO. To outsiders, they appeared to be the quintessential married couple. 2 kids, Liam, 8, and Sophia, 5, a white picket fence, and a golden retriever named Max. But beneath the surface, Claire prided herself on one thing above all else: her authority over their marriage. It wasn't that Ethan was domineering or difficult, quite the opposite. He had always been easygoing, content to let Claire take the lead when it came to finances, parenting decisions, and even social commitments. For years, this dynamic suited them both, or so Claire believed. In her mind, being in charge meant ensuring everything ran smoothly, from organizing family vacations to managing their joint bank account. What she didn't realize, however, was how her perception of control had quietly eroded Ethan's sense of agency within the relationship. On a warm Tuesday afternoon, while Ethan was upstairs tinkering with his guitar, a rare hobby he indulged in during moments of solitude, Claire sat cross-legged on the living room couch, scrolling through her phone. She dialed Olivia, her closest friend since college, who now lived across town. As soon as Olivia picked up, Claire launched into a playful rant about the quirks of married life. "You won't believe what Ethan did last week," Claire began, rolling her eyes for dramatic effect. "He actually suggested we downsize our cable package. Can you imagine? Like we're some kind of budget-conscious retirees." Olivia chuckled on the other end of the line. "That does sound frugal. But hey, maybe he's just trying to save money." "Save money?" Claire scoffed, her tone laced with amusement. "Please, I'm the one keeping us afloat here. If it were up to him, we'd still be eating frozen pizzas every night and driving that beat-up sedan he refuses to replace." As the conversation continued, Claire grew more animated, recounting stories of how she had recently negotiated a better rate on their homeowner's insurance and vetoed Ethan's idea to splurge on a new smartwatch. Each anecdote reinforced her belief that she was the true architect of their marital success. "I mean, honestly, Liv," Claire said with a self-satisfied laugh, "I think deep down, Ethan knows I'm the one running the show around here. Sometimes. I wonder if he'd even function without me holding everything together." Unbeknownst to Claire, Ethan had descended the stairs midway through her monologue. Pausing by the doorway, he froze upon hearing her words. His fingers tightened around the neck of his guitar as he processed her casual dismissal of his contributions to their life together. A flicker of hurt crossed his face, but he quickly masked it with stoicism. Without making a sound, he turned and walked back upstairs, leaving Claire blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in his mind. For Claire, the call ended as just another opportunity to vent about the minor frustrations of married life. But for Ethan, it marked the beginning of a reckoning, one that would force them both to confront the fragile illusion of power that had long defined their relationship. The next morning, Ethan woke up earlier than usual, his mind still replaying fragments of Claire's phone call from the day before. As sunlight streamed through the cracks in their bedroom blinds, he lay there staring at the ceiling, his thoughts tangled in a mix of resentment and determination. For years, he had let Claire steer the ship of their marriage, believing it was easier to avoid conflict than to challenge her decisions. But now, something inside him had shifted, a quiet resolve to reclaim not just his voice but also his place in their shared life. Ethan began his day with deliberate purpose. He brewed a pot of coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, and opened his laptop. The first step, he decided, was taking control of what he could, their finances. Logging into their joint bank account, he reviewed recent transactions, luxury, skincare products, designer shoes for Claire, an extravagant dinner reservation she'd made weeks ago without consulting him. Each charge felt like another brick added to the wall between them. That evening, when Claire returned home after dropping off the kids at school and running errands, Ethan greeted her with an uncharacteristic calmness. "We need to talk," he said simply, gesturing toward the dining table where stacks of papers and printouts were neatly arranged. Claire raised an eyebrow, surprised by his tone. "What's this about?" she asked, setting her purse aside. "These are our financial statements," Ethan replied, his voice steady. "I've gone over everything, and I think it's time we address some things." As he walked her through the numbers, Claire grew increasingly defensive. "Are you seriously questioning how I manage our money? Everything's fine. We're doing great." "Fine?" Ethan countered, his frustration bubbling to the surface. "Claire, we're drowning in credit card debt because of impulse purchases that don't benefit anyone but you. And yet, whenever I try to suggest cutting back, you act like I'm trying to sabotage your happiness." For the first time in years, Ethan held firm, refusing to back down. He outlined his plan. They would freeze all non-essential spending until their debt was under control, and moving forward, any significant purchase required mutual agreement. When Claire protested, claiming it was unfair, Ethan dropped his bombshell. "I've opened a separate savings account," he admitted, watching as shock washed over her face. "If this doesn't work, if we can't find a way to fix things, I need to know I have options." Claire felt blindsided. How had her dependable, mild-mannered husband become someone capable of such bold moves? She tried to dismiss his actions as overreacting, but deep down, unease settled in her chest. Ethan wasn't acting like the man she thought she knew anymore. And worse, she couldn't shake the feeling that he might be right. Over the following days, Ethan continued asserting himself in small but impactful ways. He started taking Liam and Sophia out for weekend outings without consulting Claire first, teaching them practical skills like budgeting allowances and saving for toys they wanted. During dinner one night, Liam proudly announced, "Dad says, being smart with money is important." Claire forced a smile, though her grip on her fork tightened beneath the table. Meanwhile, Ethan began reconnecting with old friends and colleagues, people who reminded him of the person he used to be before. He let Claire take the reins entirely. One Friday evening, he accepted an invitation to join a coworker for drinks after work. Sitting at the bar, laughing over stories of past projects and future ambitions, Ethan realized how much of himself he'd sacrificed in the name of keeping the peace at home. Back at the house, Claire noticed subtle changes too. Ethan seemed more distant, less willing to engage in casual conversation or help with household chores he once handled without complaint. At first, she chalked it up to stress, assuming he'd eventually return to his usual self. But as the weeks passed, her unease deepened. Something fundamental had shifted between them, and no matter how hard she tried to ignore it, she couldn't deny the growing tension in their home. One afternoon, while sorting through mail at the kitchen counter, Claire stumbled upon a letter addressed to Ethan. It bore the logo of a local financial advisor. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she opened it, scanning its contents. The document confirmed her worst fears. Ethan had been meeting with a financial planner to discuss long-term strategies, including the possibility of dividing assets should their marriage dissolve. Her hands trembled as she set the letter down. For the first time, Claire allowed herself to consider the unthinkable. What if Ethan meant what he said? What if he really was preparing to leave? In that moment, the illusion of control she had clung to for so long began to crumble. But instead of confronting him, Claire retreated further into denial, convincing herself that this phase would pass. After all, Ethan loved her. He wouldn't throw away their family over something as trivial as money, or so she told herself. Little did she know, Ethan's rebellion was only beginning, and soon, Claire would be forced to face the consequences of her actions head-on. The cracks in Claire and Ethan's marriage widened with each passing day, though neither of them spoke openly about it. Instead, Their interactions became a delicate dance of avoidance and thinly veiled resentment. Claire continued to go through the motions of her routine, dropping off the kids at school, grocery shopping, attending yoga classes. But beneath her composed exterior, anxiety gnawed at her. She couldn't shake the image of that financial advisor's letter, or the memory of Ethan's calm yet resolute demeanor when he laid out his plans. One Thursday afternoon, Claire decided to take matters into her own hands. Hoping to regain some semblance of control, she scheduled an appointment with Mr. Dawson, the family's longtime financial consultant. If anyone could help her make sense of their situation, and perhaps convince Ethan to back down, it was him, sitting across from Mr. Dawson in his sterile office. Claire fidgeted nervously as he reviewed their accounts. He adjusted his glasses and frowned slightly before speaking. "Claire, I have to be honest. Your spending habits over the past few years, they're unsustainable. And this isn't just about numbers. It's about trust." Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "It's not like I've been reckless," she protested weakly. "I've always had good intentions. I wanted our family to live comfortably, to give the kids experiences they'll remember." Mr. Dawson nodded sympathetically, but didn't mince words. Intentions are one thing, but actions matter more. You can't keep making unilateral decisions without considering the impact on Ethan or your marriage. Financial strain often mirrors emotional strain. Have you two talked about this? Claire hesitated, then shook her head. Talking wasn't working anymore. Not since Ethan had started pushing back so forcefully. What once felt like harmless banter now carried an undercurrent of hostility. Every conversation felt like walking on eggshells, unsure of when the next argument would erupt. That evening, Claire broached the subject with Ethan during dinner. "I met with Mr. Dawson today," she said cautiously, watching his reaction closely. "He agrees we need to get serious about cutting expenses." Ethan looked up from his plate, his expression unreadable. "Good. Maybe now you'll understand why I've been insisting on changes." His tone stung, but Claire pressed on. "Look, I know I haven't been perfect, but you're acting like I'm the only problem here. Do you even care about saving our marriage, or is this all about proving a point?" Ethan sighed heavily, setting down his fork. "Of course I care, but caring means being honest, even if it hurts. For too long, I've let you call all the shots, because I thought it made you happy. Turns out it didn't make either of us happy. We're both drowning, Claire, and pretending everything's fine won't fix it." The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. For the first time, Claire allowed herself to consider the possibility that Ethan wasn't entirely wrong. Yet, acknowledging that truth felt like admitting defeat, a surrender of the power she had clung to for so long. Meanwhile, the tension between their parents hadn't gone unnoticed by Liam and Sophia. At 8 years old, Liam was old enough to pick up on the subtle shifts in their household dynamics. One night, after overhearing another heated exchange between Claire and Ethan, he approached his mother with wide, worried eyes. "Mom, are you and Dad getting divorced?" he asked bluntly, clutching his stuffed dinosaur tightly. Claire's heart sank. Kneeling down to meet his gaze, she forced a reassuring smile. "No, sweetheart. Your dad and I are just figuring some things out. We love you and Sophia more than anything, okay?" Liam nodded reluctantly, but the doubt lingered in his expression. Later that week, he confided in Ethan during one of their weekend outings. "Dad, why does Mom spend so much money? Is it because she doesn't think you work hard enough?" Ethan froze, caught off guard by the question. After a moment, he crouched down to Liam's level, choosing his words carefully. "Your mom works? Hard too, buddy. But sometimes grown-ups disagree about how to handle things like money. It doesn't mean we don't love each other, or you." Though Ethan reassured his son, the comment stuck with him. It was becoming increasingly clear that their marital struggles weren't just affecting them. They were leaving scars on their children as well. As the days turned into weeks, Claire found herself growing more isolated. Olivia, her closest confidant, seemed reluctant to offer advice beyond vague platitudes. "Maybe you should try seeing his side for once," Olivia suggested during one phone call. "He's not the same guy he used to be, Claire. People change." Her words struck a nerve. Claire realized that she had spent so long assuming Ethan would bend to her will that she hadn't stopped to consider how stifled he must have felt. Still, admitting fault felt like opening a floodgate she wasn't ready to face. Then came the moment that shattered what little remained of Claire's illusion of control. While cleaning out the hall closet, she stumbled upon a folder tucked inside Ethan's old backpack. Curiosity got the better of her, and she opened it to find a series of documents detailing his personal savings account, the one he'd hinted at weeks earlier. But there was something else too. A draft email addressed to a lawyer, outlining potential steps for filing separation papers. Her breath caught in her throat as she read the words on the screen. This wasn't just preparation. It was a contingency plan. Ethan wasn't bluffing. He was ready to leave if things didn't improve. For hours, Claire sat alone in the dim light of the living room, staring at the folder in her lap. The cracks beneath the surface of their marriage had finally broken wide open, exposing the raw, painful truth. Her need for control had driven a wedge between them, and now she might lose everything she had taken for granted. But instead of confronting Ethan immediately, Claire did something unexpected. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in years. The office of Dr. Harper, a therapist recommended by Olivia during a particularly stressful period in her life. Taking a deep breath, she left a message requesting an appointment for both her and Ethan. It was a small step, but for the first time in months, Claire felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps redemption wasn't out of reach after all. The air in Dr. Harper's office was thick with unspoken tension as Claire and Ethan sat across from each other on opposite ends of a plush gray couch. The therapist, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and an uncanny ability to read between the lines, observed them quietly before breaking the silence. "Thank you both for coming today," she began, her voice calm but firm. "Let's start by acknowledging that this isn't about assigning blame. It's about understanding where things went wrong and finding a way forward." Claire shifted uncomfortably, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Ethan leaned back, against the cushions, his arms crossed defensively. Neither spoke for a moment, the weight of their shared history pressing down like an invisible force. Finally, Claire broke the silence. "I know I've made mistakes," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I thought I was doing what was best for our family, but I see now how my decisions have hurt us. Hurt you. And I'm sorry." Ethan glanced at her briefly, surprised by the sincerity in her tone. For months, he had braced himself for defensiveness or excuses, but this apology felt genuine. Still, he couldn't let his guard down completely. Not yet. "I appreciate that," he said slowly, choosing his words carefully. "But saying sorry doesn't undo the damage, Claire. You've been making decisions for both of us without even asking how I feel. Do you realize how isolating that is?" Dr. Harper nodded thoughtfully. "It sounds like there's been a breakdown in communication. Ethan, can you share more about how that isolation has affected you?" Ethan hesitated, then exhaled deeply. "It's not just about money or control. It's about feeling like I don't have a say in my own life anymore. Like everything I do is second-guessed or dismissed. I love our family, but I need to feel like I matter too." Claire's eyes filled with tears as she listened. She had always prided herself on being the strong one, the decision-maker, the glue holding everything together. But now she saw the cost of her actions, the way her need for control had pushed Ethan further away, leaving him feeling invisible and undervalued. As the session progressed, Dr. Harper encouraged them to explore specific incidents that had led to their current impasse. When Ethan recounted the night he overheard Claire's phone call with Olivia, Her casual dismissal of his contributions cutting deeper than any argument ever could, Claire visibly flinched. "I didn't mean it like that," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I never wanted you to feel small. I was just venting." "But that's the thing," Ethan replied, his frustration rising. "You act like your way is the only way, and when I try to push back, you shut me down. How am I supposed to stay invested in this marriage if I don't feel respected?" The room fell silent again, the truth of his words hanging heavy between them. Claire wiped her tears and took a shaky breath. "I don't want you to leave, Ethan. I don't want us to fall apart. But I also know I can't fix this alone. I need help. I need us to work on this together." For the first time in what felt like forever, Ethan softened. He reached out tentatively, placing a hand over hers. "I don't want to leave either," he admitted. "But we have to be honest with each other. No more hiding. No more pretending everything's fine when it's not." Dr. Harper smiled faintly, sensing a glimmer of hope amidst the turmoil. "That's a good place to start," she said. "Healing won't happen overnight, but if you're both willing to put in the effort, there's still a chance to rebuild." Later that evening, as they drove home from the session, Claire turned to Ethan, her voice hesitant but earnest. "Do you think we can really fix this? Or is it too late?" Ethan glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. "I don't know, Claire. But I do know that walking away wouldn't solve anything. Not for me, not for you, and definitely not for the kids. If we're going to make it work, though, we have to commit to each other and to changing the way we communicate." She nodded, swallowing hard. "Okay, let's try." Despite the fragile truce, the road ahead remained uncertain. Over the next few weeks, tensions continued to simmer beneath the surface. Small disagreements escalated quickly, fueled by lingering resentment and fear of losing control. One particularly heated argument erupted when Claire discovered that Ethan had secretly booked a weekend getaway with Liam and Sophia, a gesture meant to reconnect with the kids, but one that Claire interpreted as another attempt to undermine her authority. "You didn't even ask me," she snapped, her anger boiling over. "What gives you the right to plan something like that without consulting me?" "It's called being a parent, Claire," Ethan shot back, his patience wearing thin. "Maybe if you stopped micromanaging every aspect of our lives, you'd realize I'm capable of making decisions too." Their voices carried through the house, drawing worried looks from Liam and Sophia. It wasn't until Sophia burst into tears, clutching her favorite stuffed bunny, that they both realized the toll their fighting was taking on their children. Shamefaced, Claire knelt down to comfort her daughter while Ethan apologized profusely. In that moment, they both understood that their battles weren't just about pride or power. They were about protecting the people who depended on them most. A week later, another bombshell threatened to derail their fragile progress. An anonymous letter arrived in the mail, addressed to both of them. Inside was a photocopy of a receipt dated several years ago, an extravagant designer handbag purchased using Ethan's credit card without his knowledge. Beneath the receipt was a short note. "Thought you should know the truth." Claire's stomach churned as she recognized the item immediately. It was a gift she had bought herself during a particularly stressful period, convinced at the time that Ethan wouldn't understand why she needed it. Now, staring at the evidence of her deception, she felt a wave of panic. Ethan's face darkened as he read the note. "Care to explain this?" he asked, his voice icy. Claire opened her mouth to deny it, then stopped herself. Lying would only dig the hole deeper. I bought that bag a long time ago," she confessed, her voice shaking. "I was going through a rough patch and I thought it would make me feel better. I didn't mean to hide it. It was stupid and selfish, and I'm so sorry." For a moment, Ethan looked like he might explode, but instead, he sank onto the couch, rubbing his temples. I can't keep doing this, Claire. Every time I think we're moving forward, something else comes up. How am I supposed to trust you when these secrets keep surfacing? Claire knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back, Ethan. Therapy, counseling, accountability. I'll do it all. Please, give me another chance. Her vulnerability struck a chord within him. He knew forgiveness wouldn't come easily, but he also knew that walking away wouldn't erase the pain they'd caused each other, or the love they still shared. As they sat together in silence, surrounded by the wreckage of their past mistakes, one thing became clear. Rebuilding their marriage would require more than apologies. It would demand sacrifice, humility, and a willingness to confront the hardest truths about themselves. Only then could they hope to emerge stronger on the other side. The weeks that followed were a blur of introspection and uneasy attempts at reconciliation. Claire and Ethan continued attending therapy sessions with Dr. Harper, each meeting peeling back another layer of their fractured relationship. For Claire, the process was grueling, a constant confrontation with her own flaws and the consequences of her actions. She had always prided herself on being strong, capable, and in control. But now she faced the uncomfortable reality that her need for dominance had cost her dearly. Ethan, too, was forced to examine his role in their marital breakdown. Though he had every right to feel wronged. Dr. Harper gently challenged him to consider how his passivity had enabled Claire's behavior over the years. Your silence spoke volumes, she told him during one session. By avoiding conflict, you inadvertently allowed resentment to build. Healthy relationships require both partners to advocate for themselves. These revelations didn't come easily. There were moments when old wounds resurfaced, sparking arguments that left them both emotionally drained. Yet, amidst the tension, small glimmers of progress began to emerge. Claire started taking responsibility for her spending habits, meticulously tracking expenses and consulting Ethan before making purchases. In turn, Ethan made an effort to communicate his feelings more openly, rather than retreating into silence. One evening, after a particularly productive therapy session, Claire decided to take matters into her own hands. She sat down at the kitchen table with a legal pad and began drafting a list titled, Steps Toward Trust. At the top, she wrote, 1. Be honest, even when it hurts. Below it, she outlined practical ways to rebuild transparency, from sharing passwords to their accounts, to setting aside weekly check-ins to discuss financial decisions. When Ethan walked into the kitchen and saw her working, he raised an eyebrow. What's that? It's a plan, Claire replied hesitantly, sliding the paper toward him. I know saying sorry isn't enough. I want to show you that I'm serious about changing, not just for us, but for Liam and Sophia too. Ethan studied the list, his expression unreadable. After a long pause, he nodded slowly. Okay, let's give it a shot. Their newfound commitment to change extended beyond finances. Claire began involving Ethan in parenting decisions, seeking his input on everything from school activities to bedtime routines. In return, Ethan stepped up his efforts to support Claire, helping with household chores and offering words of encouragement when she doubted herself. Despite these strides, trust remained fragile. The anonymous letter revealing Claire's secret purchase still loomed large in Ethan's mind, a reminder of the lies they had yet to fully address. One night, as they lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he finally voiced the question that had been haunting him. Why did you really do it? He asked softly. The bag. The credit card. I get that you were stressed, but why didn't you just talk to me? Claire turned to face him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Because I was scared, she admitted. Scared that if I admitted I wasn't okay, you'd see me as weak. Scared that asking for help would mean admitting I couldn't handle everything on my own. And honestly, I thought you wouldn't understand. Ethan sighed, rolling onto his side to meet her gaze. You don't have to carry everything by yourself, Claire. That's what marriage is supposed to be about. Supporting each other, not competing for control. His words struck a chord deep within her. For so long, she had equated vulnerability with weakness, believing that showing cracks in her armor would undermine her authority. But now, lying there in the quiet darkness, she realized that true strength lay in letting someone else in, even when it felt terrifying. Meanwhile, Olivia noticed a subtle shift in Claire's demeanor during their weekly coffee dates. Gone was the brash confidence that had once defined her friend. In its place was a quieter, more reflective version of Claire, who seemed determined to grow. When Olivia cautiously broached the topic of Ethan's ultimatum, Claire surprised her by responding with candor. I deserved it, she admitted, stirring her latte absently. For years, I treated our marriage like a business deal, one where I called all the shots. Ethan gave me space because he loves me, but I took advantage of that. Now I'm learning that love isn't about power, it's about partnership. Olivia nodded thoughtfully, impressed by Claire's maturity. It sounds like you're finally seeing things differently. Does Ethan believe you've changed? I hope so, Claire replied, her voice tinged with uncertainty. But rebuilding trust takes time. All I can do is keep showing up, for him, for the kids, for myself, and hope that someday he'll forgive me completely. As autumn settled over Austin, painting the trees in shades of gold and crimson, Claire and Ethan found themselves standing at a crossroads. They had made significant progress, but lingering doubts still lingered beneath the surface. One chilly Saturday morning, while sipping coffee on the porch, Ethan broached a subject neither of them had dared to discuss openly. What happens if we can't fix this? He asked quietly, his breath forming clouds in the crisp air. Not because we don't want to, but because the damage runs too deep. Claire set her mug down, her heart pounding. Then we'll have to make the hardest decision of all, for the sake of the kids. But I believe we can fix it, Ethan. I really do. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago, and neither are you. Maybe that's what this whole mess was, meant to teach us, that love isn't static. It evolves, grows, and sometimes demands more than we think we can give. Ethan reached out, taking her hand in his. Let's promise to keep trying, no matter how hard it gets, because walking away would mean giving up on something worth fighting for. They sealed the vow with a simple squeeze of reassurance, knowing full well that the road ahead would test them again and again. But for the first time in a long while, they faced the future not as adversaries, but as allies united by a shared purpose, to heal the fractures in their marriage and rediscover the foundation that had brought them together in the first place. In December, the Harper household bore little resemblance to the battleground it had once been. Christmas decorations adorned every corner, filling the home with warmth and light. Liam and Sophia laughed as they helped string popcorn garlands there, joy infectious. Watching them from the doorway, Claire and Ethan exchanged a glance filled with quiet gratitude. There was still work to be done, wounds that needed more time to mend. But they had taken the first crucial steps toward redemption. Together, they had chosen to fight for their family, proving that even the most broken relationships could find new life when nurtured with honesty, humility, and love. The first day of spring arrived with a gentle breeze and the promise of renewal. Claire stood on the front porch of their suburban home, watching as Ethan helped Liam and Sophia plant sunflower seeds in the garden. Their laughter echoed through the yard, mingling with the chirping of birds returning after a long winter. It was a scene that would have seemed impossible just months ago, a family finding harmony amidst the chaos they had once endured. Over the past year, Claire and Ethan had worked tirelessly to rebuild their marriage brick by brick. Therapy sessions became less frequent, but no less meaningful, evolving into open conversations held over cups of tea or late-night walks under the stars. They learned to listen, not just to respond, but to truly understand each other's perspectives. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble, replaced by a foundation built on mutual respect and shared responsibility. Claire's transformation was perhaps the most profound. She had shed the armor of control she once wore so proudly, embracing vulnerability as a source of strength rather than weakness. No longer did she micromanage every aspect of their lives. Instead, she sought Ethan's input and trusted his judgment. When disagreements arose, and they still did, they approached them as partners, not adversaries. Ethan, too, had grown. He no longer retreated into silence when conflicts arose, nor did he allow resentment to fester unspoken. Instead, he voiced his feelings calmly and constructively, knowing that honest communication was key to maintaining the balance they had fought so hard to achieve. Together, they created a new rhythm for their relationship, one rooted in collaboration rather than competition. One Saturday afternoon, as the family prepared for their annual spring barbecue, Claire pulled out an old photo album from the closet. Flipping through its pages, she smiled at memories captured in faded snapshots. Their wedding day, Liam's first birthday, Sophia's kindergarten graduation. Each image told a story of love, joy, and resilience, the threads that had held them together even in their darkest moments. "Remember this?" Claire asked, pointing to a picture of Ethan grilling burgers while she laughed beside him, her hair windswept and cheeks flushed. "We used to be so carefree." Ethan chuckled, leaning over her shoulder to get a better look. "Yeah, back when we thought life was supposed to be easy." "It wasn't always easy," Claire admitted softly, closing the album. "But I think we're better now, stronger, wiser. Don't you?" He nodded, his gaze softening. "Definitely. We've earned this peace, Claire. Every argument, every tear. It brought us here, to a place where we can finally breathe again." Their reflections were interrupted by the sound of giggles as Liam and Sophia ran up to show off their newly planted sunflowers. "Mom! Dad! Look how tall they'll grow!" Sophia exclaimed, holding up a packet of seeds adorned with vibrant illustrations. "They sure will," Ethan replied, ruffling her hair affectionately. "Just like you two." Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the backyard in hues of orange and pink, Claire raised a glass of sparkling cider to toast their guests, a small gathering of close friends and extended family. But before she could speak, Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "I just want to say thank you to all of you for sticking by us during some tough times, and especially to my wife," he continued, turning to Claire, with a smile. "You've taught me that love isn't about winning or losing. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. I'm proud of what we've built together, and I'm excited for what's ahead." Tears welled in Claire's eyes as she returned his smile. "To us," she said simply, raising her glass higher. "To second chances, and to a future we're creating side by side." As the crowd cheered and clinked their glasses, Claire felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over her. The journey hadn't been easy. In fact, it had been one of the hardest things she'd ever faced. But it had also been worth every struggle, every sacrifice. For the first time in years, she felt truly happy. Not because everything was perfect, but because they were building something real, something lasting. That night, as the festivities wound down and the kids drifted off to sleep, Claire and Ethan sat together on the porch swing, wrapped in a blanket against the cool spring air. The house behind them glowed warmly, a testament to the life they had rebuilt together. "You know," Claire murmured, resting her head on Ethan's shoulder, "I never thought I'd see this view again, not after everything we went through." "Me neither," Ethan admitted, pulling her closer. "But here we are, stronger than ever." They sat in comfortable silence, watching as fireflies danced across the yard, their tiny lights flickering, like stars against the darkening sky. In that moment, surrounded by the people and places they loved. Claire and Ethan knew they had found their way back to each other, not as the same individuals who had stumbled into marriage years ago, but as better versions of themselves. Life would undoubtedly bring challenges in the future, as it always did. But armed with newfound patience, humility, and trust, they faced those challenges not as opponents, but as teammates. Together, they had weathered the storm and emerged on the other side, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. And as the first buds of spring bloomed around them, so too did their hope, for a brighter tomorrow, and for a love that had been tested but never broken.